What's up, everyone? Welcome to the show. We're your host, Cohn and Sybilla Bakzaza. I'm back in the room I grew up in. My dad's over here taking a nap. We're coping, doing the best we can. Thanks. I really appreciate all the support everyone's giving me. It's really meant a lot. And it's good to see you too, Sybilla. How you doing?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you as well. And I agree. It was really nice to see everyone rally behind you. So,
real quick, before we start, I just want to say that I just saw what Eric Crocker said at the end of his stream today, and he went on a whole thing. I mean, he mentioned me and my mom, which I really appreciated, and talk about how he lost his dad. I want to say like almost 10 years ago when he was a player, and that made me cry. So I really appreciate Crocker shouting me out, and I had no idea about that with him. So I definitely sympathize. Anyway, seems like anyway, I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, I want to talk about football. I want to talk about
that's what we're here for.
This
Of
new
course.
news, and this amuses me. So I was making a big stink about John Embry a couple weeks ago, and then all of a sudden I could care less about that. But finally, the Niners replaced him, and it's with a guy that was already on this coaching staff. He was quality control, which means I should know him, right? Brian Fleury. Anyway, it's not surprising. They like to promote from within. Real quick, have you heard of him?
Only from an article I was reading, I think that you referred me to a couple of weeks ago. That was it, because you were coming up with names for replacements, I think?
Yes.
So you did know him, I thought.
And his name was floated out there. I think a lot of people expected that he would get promoted. He's been a quality control coach 2 years. This year he was on offensive quality control, but he's never been a tight ends coach. His background is he was a linebackers coach on the Browns in 2015. And in 2014, he was an assistant linebackers coach. That's when he overlapped with Kyle. So he knows Kyle. Before then, he was a special teams coach at Towson, and he played quarterback at Towson. So
Did you say Towson?
Towson, Towson. I'm not even sure where that is. Here's the thing.
Towson University is in Towson, Maryland, which is about 10 minutes north of Baltimore. Oh. And that's one of the places where one of my biggest gyms is. So I work out there. I know the Tigers, the Towson Tigers. Yeah.
Well, this guy is Mr. Towson.
That's what they call themselves.
So here's the thing: is like Kyle has an impeccable record, spotting, coaching talent, and promoting the right guys. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there, but he has no experience playing tight end, coaching tight ends, and experience matters for something. I don't see how this guy is an upgrade over John Embry. I could see how someone like George Kittle says, "What is Brian Fleury gonna teach me about this position?" Like wasn't Kittle the one who led tight end U? Well, you think he's really feel like Brian Fleury has something to add? Seems like a downgrade, but I guess we'll have to find out.
I think it's one of those things where it is a hole, and they patched it with something easy and with a promotion. To be honest and humble about this situation, having him coach them is a lot like having me analyze the 49ers. You know, I'm not an NFL player, and it doesn't mean that I can't learn from the players, learn from the other analysts, do my own research and study. It's something that I really hope that Mr. Fleury spends the off season, spending the time getting to know these guys and learning what it takes. And hey, education, books on shelves, watching tape, there are ways for him to get up to speed. But to your point, it doesn't seem like this promotion was made based on his merits, but rather simply because it's an in-house, basically patch the hole.
I'm guessing they promoted him because Kyle sees talent here. I'm thinking he sees a former quarterback who has coached on both sides of the ball and probably is going to be a coordinator, probably bright enough to be a coordinator, maybe even a head coach one day. So he's thinking this guy is a guy with upward mobility and potential.
It's a pipeline. Exactly.
So that's great. So you gave him a tight end coach, but he doesn't know anything about tight ends. He has no experience there. So as he's learning and as he's gearing up to be a coordinator, is he helping George Kittle improve at his craft? That's my only thing. Like, wasn't there some other ceremonial title you could have given him and actually got someone with some experience to help? I'm just saying, like, if you're a fighter, if they were to bring in your next coach and he has no experience fighting, but he's like, look, I'm really smart, though. I'm going to figure this out. You'd be like,
what? You know what would be cool? I would love it if they could somehow hire Greg Olson away from the networks. In case he wants to be a coach one day, this would be a good way to start.
Brent Jones?
Brent Jones, sure. Yeah, I mean, he could at least teach them about the toughness of playing a tight end, and he's a great tight end. So, yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I don't know. Is he looking to coach? Is that something?
No,
Jones?
Absolutely not. That's a lot of work for not that much money. I'm guessing this guy probably is a smart guy. Kyle Shanahan must respect him. That has nothing to do, though, with teaching the techniques
Not
and
at all.
minutia of a
No.
position, right? That's different. That's not
And
conceptual
to
at
be
all.
honest with you, if I was to be involved in football, I mean, the number one thing I would be qualified to do is teach what I know, and that's fitness and high intensity training and lifting. I don't think I have business being a defensive backs coach because my qualifications are school, not even college. So yeah, I definitely am. It seems like a strange promotion, but like I said, I suspect this is something to get him up to speed, and I suspect that he'll put in the paperwork. He'll burn the midnight oil, so to speak, to get himself up to speed. But he's not qualified by merit for this. This is a
It's just like,
training exercise, I feel,
yeah.
which is strange because tight end is so important to our system.
Anthony Lynn was a great get for the 49ers, and he's going to be a terrific assistant head
Don't you
coach.
think he will actually do more of the coaching when it comes to this than this guy?
Yeah, what I'm saying is like, so the Niners got Anthony Lynn. I guess it came at the expense of John Embry. And so John Embry conveniently goes with Mike McDaniel to Miami. And I'm looking at it now. I think Mike McDaniel has the better tight end coach than Kyle Shanahan, which is strange because that's Kyle Shanahan's choice. Kyle Shanahan easily could have kept, I think, Embry and gotten Lynn. But maybe I'm wrong on that one. Maybe Embry said, you're taking the title of assistant head coach away. I'm going to go be that and tight end coach in Miami. Anyway, I feel like the Niners lost on the deal at tight end. They got worse at tight end coach, better at assistant head coach.
I definitely think the title, Emery losing that, has something to do with that. But I feel like it was an amicable parting of ways. That in his mind, at least, he's off to go get groomed to be hopefully a future head coach. In his mind, if he could do a great job in Miami under his coach, as he did for us, perhaps it's just about building his resume. And if there's one thing the 49ers, I think they do well, it's looking out for the careers of most of the time of their coaches and players. This regime anyway, not the previous one, of course, but this one definitely looks after its people. Kind of like this Jimmy Garoppolo shopping. They're not going to just dump him on some team he doesn't want to go to. He wants to win, rightfully so. So they work with him. And I feel that's more like what we saw with the exodus to the Dolphins.
Yeah. And again, I'm sure this Brian Fleury guy is quite gifted. Kyle Shanahan has handpicked this guy, and it's like being handpicked by Steve Jobs or someone. Clearly, there is talent there, but still, what do you know about tight ends, bud?
I guess in the Steve Jobs metaphor, this guy knows software. He might not know programming, but he knows software.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right. I think it's just he's part of this coaching tree, and it's just like one logical step.
And he probably won't even hold this job that long. He might get. If Anthony Lynn leaves in a couple, maybe this guy could be the next who knows, offensive coordinator.
We're going to talk about Anthony Lynn later, but definitely I think unless you want to talk about it now, I think you opened up a really good point that you said about Anthony Lynn leaving and what he is doing here.
Well, why don't we go right to it? Are the Niners grooming Anthony Lynn for his next job? I mean, he was a head coach. He took a year off, and now he has a high level assistant head coaching job. I mean, it seems like he could, if his reputation is massaged in the right place, which the Niners seem to be that place right now. They're just producing head coaches left and right. Maybe he could be back running a team pretty soon, in which case the Niners would profit.
Exactly. And that's what we were talking about before the show is that Lynn coming in here, the 49ers are not stupid. They know by having him that they give him a chance to resurrect his career, to add to his career, to add to his resume. And in so doing, they do get to pick his brains. I do think he is a good coach. I do think that he brings a lot to this team, as we talked about. But the bottom line is that he is just being given a short-term assignments before he moves on, hopefully, to his next head coaching job, in which case the Niners will get his acumen, his leadership, his play calling added to what Kyle Shanahan does for the meantime, his personnel management, his charisma, whatever. And then he's going to leave and we'll get some compensatory draft picks because he is a minority coach. And I'm going to say that because don't think the Niners are in this just for charity. They are still a business. If they can get a good guy who's a minority coach and recoup those comp picks, they're going to do it. And I think that's what they are doing here. There's no way if Lynn does a good job, we won't have him for 2 years.
Well, look, let's just reacquaint ourselves with Anthony Lynn. I mean, I don't think anyone really follows the Chargers that closely. They're kind of a fringe team, fringe franchise. But in his first season as a head coach in 2017, 9-7. Second season, 12-4. So he had some success. And in 4 seasons as a head coach, 33-32, as opposed to Kyle Shanahan, who in 5 seasons as a head coach is 39-42. So, I mean, I don't know if he's a great head coach, but his resume stacks up quite favorably with the head coach on this team. So couldn't hurt.
And arguably, I think if he had this Chargers roster now, I think he would be in the position that they are looking to be in next year. So I think he was a part of how that franchise built itself, and I think he's a good coach.
And frankly, if Mike McDaniel can become a head coach after one season of being a coordinator when he didn't even
might be
call
gone
plays,
next year.
that he didn't even call plays, Sybilla, if he can do that, then this man, who actually has 4 years of head coaching experience, was over 500 when he got fired. He might be able to become a head coach as well. So, yeah, it seems like the Niners are going to continue to put themselves in a position to get those comp picks.
Let's watch John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan after games talk about Anthony Lynn's involvements. Like they're bumming up his trade value, if you will, in the way they wanted to with Garoppolo. So is that what they are doing here?
You know what they should do if they were clever? They'd make him offensive coordinator too and give him a weekly press conference, because I'm convinced that Mike McDaniel got his job by being kind of quirky and relatable at the press conferences. When he did the Mike Jones drop, I think that sealed it for him. Mike Jones, anyway.
Did you see that wacky interview the Dolphins gave him to welcome him as the head coach?
No.
Yeah, it was kiss, marry, and kill or something. They asked him, who would you kiss, who would you marry, who would you kill?
That's
or
dumb.
Something like that. And they gave him LaFleur, Shanahan, and McVay.
That is so dumb.
It's the stupidest question I've ever seen. I'm like, see, that's what you just went to. That's your franchise.
Yeah, good luck. Exactly. Could have told you that one. All right,
he said he would marry Kyle Shanahan simply because he spent the most time with him, and that's what you should do. It's horrible marital advice, let me say. Just because you're stuck with someone doesn't mean you marry them. But anyway, poor guy.
You have to answer the question, too, because they just hired you, man. Ugh.
Going to Miami.
Rod Simmons says, Grant, love you, man. May Mother Cohn rest in heaven. Thank you. Can't say enough about our quality control guy still working. Thanks for all you do, and condolences to Mr. Cohn. Thank you, Rod. Thank you. Marco, quality control role is available. Time to take it. I've been had the role. It's mine. We should sign Cordell Patterson and Gilmore. That's cool with me.
Stephon Gilmore. Sure.
Yeah, I like that. I think both of them.
I don't think it's bad to have Cordell Patterson, but I think we have Deebo Samuel. So.
Yeah. Sybilla looking hella buff. Any chance McVay winning a Super Bowl is exactly what we needed for Kyle to drop some of his stubbornness. That had to hurt his ego. Well, it's now Kyle's turn to respond with his quarterback. Like McVay won it with Stafford, and now Kyle gets to win it with Lance, right? I mean, that's what we expect.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he will.
At Sybilla, offseason, we speculate what the Niners should be working on. What will you be working on? Tight end coaches to Kittle, what a QB is to Wilson. QBC is to Wilson. What are you working on this offseason?
Working on myself, getting bigger and stronger, and getting ready for my martial arts team, because we are going to fight this season starting in September. So it seems like a long time, but just like the NFL, it's really just around the corner. So be working on that and continue to do my modeling.
Is your martial arts group like Cobra Kai or like Miyagi-Do?
Damn, that's a good question. I think we're in between.
In between? You're Eagle Fang.
I think it's obvious that I would be in between.
Of course. There you go.
We're ruthless and we're mean. And it's like, we don't really care what happens to our opponents, but we do fight clean.
Have you watched the new Cobra Kai?
Yes, I have. You know what's amazing about that? So the first Japanese martial art I studied was Goju Ryu, which is actually what was developed by a man named Chojun Miyagi-san, as in the Hollywood rendition is Mr. Miyagi.
Right.
So the Karate Kid was studying Goju Ryu, and that's what I was an instructor in first. Oh. So I have a special.
So you are Miyagi-Do.
Right, basically, yes. But I took the road of a little bit more bravado, a little bit more glory, and a little bit more money.
A little bit more Cobra Kai.
The Cobra Kai thing kind
there
of
you go.
Come into it. I changed my gi from white to black. And I remember when I saw my sensei, she's from Okinawa. First time she saw me, she went, just gave me this look like, how dare you, basically.
The dark side.
Cobra Kai is really cool. It's kind of cool how the loser turns out to do, he's still evil, but he kind of turns out to do good things. And it's just, he's like a bad man doing good. It's interesting. But for Cobra Kai. I don't know if you caught that.
Huh?
I actually officially modeled for Cobra Kai. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I got the assignments from Hot Topic, and I was like, I gotta beast this one because I was competing against other models. there are a bunch of BJJ and MMA guys and everything, but I'm more the hardcore Japanese. I was like, this is mine. So I got it. My girlfriend took the picture, which was amazing. It was the first picture she ever took of me modeling, and it got published.
Congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sorry for your loss, Grant. You guys think thank you. You guys think Tart owes Eli Apple anything for taking the heat off of him? Ha 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 ha. Ha ha. Eli Apple is the guy right now, huh?
Yvonne, I would have to say I'm known for giving the acid, but that was a burn. I like that.
Juice Man Jeremy says, we always ask what if Grant was the GM, but what if Grant was the owner? Dun dun dun. The Niners would still be in San Francisco. Dun dun dun.
Oh, good publicity stunt there. I like that.
Yeah. Levi's Stadium wouldn't have ever happened. Dun dun dun. Damian Jasso says, Jimmy said in his last press conference he's going to miss the comeback at Levi's. Laugh man, so what comebacks? You mean the comeback they did on you, Jimmy? Should just retire. Can't wait until Trey runs play action. Oh, Niner fans are really happy for the era to end. Do you think they're going to look back at him wistfully if in the future, or do you think?
I hope they don't look back on him with any kind of contempt. That's for certain. I just think they need to just move on. I mean, we still got to 2 championship games, 1 Super Bowl. I mean, there are a lot of teams out there doing worse than us. So,
Delicioso comes through with the rap bars every day. By the way, just in case you never heard of Grant Cohn, he's on the smooth tip, never tripping on them suckers popping off at the Live Trey area. Thank you, Delicioso. Seabelt says, much love to you both. Hugs to you, Grant. Thank you. These Jimmy lovers are blinded by his QB face. They're so emotional about his departure. You know who he looks like to me? Clark Kent. He looks like Superman. He's got the
let's get the pair of glasses. Yeah.
Definitely. He looks like Clark Kent.
Yeah. Seabelt he's a little bit right, but
he's right.
Yeah, like okay. I said, I mean, everyone knows I'm not a Jimmy enemy. I'm not a Jimmy fan per se. I like the 49ers. I'm happy with the direction we're going.
He's very clean-cut, all-American Clark Kent. I mean, that's what I think. He looks
he grew up behind the white picket fence.
Yes. All right. Who should back up Trey Lance, Sybilla?
So I think because of the Anthony Lynn connection, it's Tyrod Taylor. So get straight to the point there. The reason for this is I think Tyrod Taylor, remember at the Combine when he was coming into the league, do you remember who his roommate was?
No.
Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, wow.
So we got these dual threat running quarterbacks. And obviously Kaepernick was the racehorse of his day and that sort of thing. Trey Lance hopefully will be the more beastly version of him, which is hard to do because Kaepernick is quite a specimen athletically. But I think that the skill set of Tyrod Taylor is like, really hate to say this, but it's more like at this point in his career, a poor man's version of, it's the Mustang to the Ferrari. It's the poor man's version of Trey Lance.
Well, if I remember correctly, in Harbaugh's final game at Stanford when he was coaching Andrew Luck, they won the Orange Bowl and they beat Virginia Tech, and the quarterback was Tyrod Taylor, who basically single-handedly kept Virginia Tech competitive in that game.
I remember that, yes.
And if I remember correctly, Jim told his brother, hey, if you're looking for a backup, this guy's really good. And Tyrod Taylor was a backup in Baltimore for a long time. A lot of people felt he was better than Joe Flacco for a lot of that time.
He was. He absolutely was. Yeah. I mean, they lucked out with the Lamar Jackson thing, but Tyrod Taylor was in the direction, if you will, of that sort of system. So again, like I said a couple of weeks ago or last week, we need a quarterback that's plug and play. We don't need a pocket passer backing up a mobile quarterback because it changes the system. And I think as far as like the receivers go, we just need to keep them with a quarterback that somewhat resembles what they have. Again, I think Tyrod Taylor buys into our system. I think he buys into the franchise. It's going to keep him in California, and it's going to keep him with Anthony Lynn. And I just think that connection there makes it very, very logical. I think Anthony Lynn can go out and get us Tyrod Taylor, and I think there's worse situations to be in. I definitely don't want any of these other backups that are out there coming into our system. This is really the only one I think I would be comfortable with.
And I think
Trubisky is out there. We don't want him.
Speak for yourself on that one. I like Mitch Trubisky. I like Tyrod Taylor. I think Tyrod Taylor is going to be the guy they get. He has the clear connection.
So if you had your way, would you go with Trubisky?
Yeah, I like Trubisky. I think because here, let me lay it out. I like Tyrod Taylor, but he's been hurt a lot. And I think the Niners need to take that seriously because when they bring in veterans with injury histories, at least for their team, it doesn't work out. I don't know what it is, but if it's the water, if it's the training staff, if it's something, if it's just bad luck, but they have a bad luck. history with those kind of guys. So I think he's probably going to be who they get, and he probably won't even play that much. But they might want to consider someone who's a little younger, a little more durable.
Because he fits the style of quarterback Kyle Shanahan is more commonly affiliated.
That's great. And I think that's why they'll get him. But I think at the same time, that might be a little overrated. Like, you just need a guy who can win two out of 3 games while Trey's hurt. Like, for example, the Cardinals, they have Kyler Murray. Their backup had nothing in common with Kyler Murray, Colt McCoy. But he won a few games for him. That's all you care about. And like, the offense changed when he was there.
2-1, right?
Yeah. And he beat the Niners and the Seahawks, like 2 division games. So like the Niners, what you could do is you could get Colt McCoy and he could just run the Jimmy offense if it were to come to that. I'm just saying.
Now that's the point I have to admit I did not consider is that you don't need to run at full speed to win. We've proven that.
Yeah.
So we can have a game manager offense and still win, in which case, I could say it's Mitchell Trubisky. People like Teddy Bridgewater are off the table because he wants to start. So I think it comes down to the 2 of them.
I think the Niners have a lot of good options. I think they can get.
Oh, definitely.
They can get a guy who started games and won and has a similar skill set to Trey. Failing that, they can get a guy who started games and won, but is a little bit different. Failing that, they could probably draft a guy who's really gifted. I mean, I think there's a lot of good options, but I think it's going to be Tyrod.
Trubisky he would be particularly inspired to take a team-friendly contract. Because here's a guy who really should have had a career, and now he's looking at the drain pipe. He really is. He's this close to being in the dregs of the NFL, but he could come to
His biggest sins are being worse than Patrick Mahomes and Deshaun Watson and playing for the Bears. If you put him as a backup on the Niners, I think he'd be pretty good.
Yeah, and I think that it would give people a chance to maybe to revive his career, saying that he was working with the quarterback whisperer, basically.
Right.
So I could see that, and maybe he beats Tyrod Taylor on the contractual side of things, because don't you think Anthony Lynn gives Tyrod the votes?
I think it's going to be Tyrod. I think bringing in Anthony, it's going to be someone that they have a connection to, I think. And that's most likely. I mean, they brought in Scangarello. He immediately brought in his guy, Sudfeld. Rosen never had a chance. Not that he was good or anything. Sorry, Rosen. But I just feel like it's kind of that kind of a league. The Niners bring in people they know because they want people who love the game and all that stuff. So Tyrod's probably going to be the guy. I just hope.
The thing about Mitchell,
because when he's healthy, he's good.
A mid-round draft pick or something. To get something back for him and trade him like next year. Yeah. Interesting. We'll see. Yeah.
Andrew says the Niners must re-sign DJ Jones, Azeez Al-Shaair, trade Jimmy for first if Washington is that stupid, get Ahmad Gardner, but likely for whatever reason Kyle won't play him because of rookie fear. I was going through Kyle's season and I was trying to figure out what to grade him, and it seemed like a big reason they were 3-5 is because he was so scared of playing rookies early on.
Yes, we raved about that at the beginning of the season. Everyone did. Absolutely. We were calling for Lenoir, calling for Thomas, calling for Solomon. Yes.
Jawan Jennings, Ayuk, like where are these guys? Why is Sanu playing? Why is Sherfield playing? But then Kyle got it. They got to 3-5. All of a sudden, every player was playing the right spot, getting the right amount of touches, and they reeled off 9 of 11. And that was a big reason. But yeah, I mean, by the end of the season, he reverted though. He didn't get the ball to Debo or Kyle Kittle in the last quarter of this NFC Championship game. So rookie fear, I don't know what you want to call it, but he does have it. He's forced to play those guys.
Let's hope that this year he graduated a little bit. Dare I say, Kyle Shanahan looked more the part of an actual head coach than just an offensive play caller. Do you feel, at least when I was watching his interviews, but you're there, did you not feel that his ire came down with the media? He got a little bit more, less curt with you guys. He got a little bit more amicable.
Once he won 9 of 11 and his job wasn't on the line anymore.
That's the thing here's the thing though. Is a great remedy for attitude.
What I wanted to say is the rookie fear, he got over it in every case except for the most important one, quarterback. Like, he needed to change to Trey Lance when Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt. And I got the numbers. Jimmy Garoppolo was having a good season, but then he messed up his thumb in Tennessee in his final 5 starts. He threw 4 touchdowns, 7 picks, and his quarterback rating was 79.9. Like, that was the moment for Kyle to switch because there's no way. Most likely Trey wouldn't have been worse than that. And it's not that Jimmy was hurt. So it just seems like Kyle came so close to getting over that rookie fear thing, but he couldn't come all the way. We'll see if it happens this year. He's going to play Trey Lance because he's not a rookie anymore. But which rookies will be in the doghouse? Which second-year players will be in the doghouse? I wonder.
I sincerely hope that Ayuk is not one of them, and I hope that we give Emory Thomas a look, at least, to see if he can develop and build off of some of the highlights of his season in his rookie campaign.
Oh, it's definitely going to be Ambry Thomas. given the Niners' history, some guy who
but
flashed.
that's the guy that we have to progress with and realize that if you're not going to draft corners number one over, the first round, you have to develop them. And if we're not going to develop him in the second year, that's a draft bust.
But he's going to be the new Ahkello Witherspoon in the sense that played the second half of his rookie year, had some good games, got a ton of praise the offseason. Everyone projected him to be a starter who would improve, and then I'm not saying he won't, but he's the main candidate for the sophomore letdown that the Niners usually have one of.
Well,
so don't be that guy.
NFL besides quarterback, I think it's the number one mechanics oriented position besides quarterback in the NFL. So if there's one place to regress that we have, it would be there. He's in a
Keith
hard
Murphy.
People don't realize
it's super hard.
Corner. It's hard.
Keith Murphy says, I like Trubisky, but what about Keenum? Is he still signed in Cleveland? Keenum's fine. Yeah, I'd be like any backup who has experience starting and playing playoff games would help.
Yeah,
Keenum was in the NFC Championship
game. Come here and beat the Rams for us.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be against. Okay, maybe the Niners can shoot a little higher than Nick Mullins, but I'm just saying. Trubisky is probably going to follow Daboll to New York Giants. I like Taylor is one good option of many. Keenum, Dalton, Spider-Man background is sick. Oh yeah, thank you. The Spider-Man background. Yeah, Dalton works. I think there's a lot of guys who've started games who could probably come here and back up. Not
Dalton's attitude, I think, would suit the 49ers. I would say I've watched his composure on the field. I feel like he's a decent guy, and he understands where he is in his career. I'll give him that.
Yeah, he might feel the association with the 49ers would help him, you know? I mean, look at what the Niners did for a modestly gifted quarterback like Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe someone like Dalton feels like, hey, man, I could do all that. I could do this. Neil says, Grant, you have a Jimmy poster behind you. Haha, yeah. Jimmy, but yeah, I see what you mean. Superman. Jamal says, when you factor in Trubisky and guys like Mariota will try to go somewhere they can compete for a starting job, Tyrod looks more. I think it's going to be Tyrod. I think it's pretty.
Jamal is right. That's why Teddy Bridgewater is off the table. If there are places that the guys that feel they can be starters will go. And so it's a pretty good quarterback crop out there. I think it's one of the best looking backup markets I've ever seen.
Agreed. All right. Now that the Niners have a new quarterback, theoretically, and he's totally different, and they don't have a first-round pick, what do you think their draft priority should be?
The obvious is corner. But I feel like we need a proven corner. We really need someone to come in here and help immediately. We don't need any more developmental projects, whether we get a proven starter, because the Rams model is different than the 49ers model. And guess what? They prove theirs works.
Yeah.
Argue it either way you want. They have a Super Bowl. We don't. We invest draft capital. They give it away. And if you look at the statistics for the number of starters you get for more, they get to their second contract, I don't remember what the number is, but it's low in the first round. It's surprisingly low. And the rate at which they trade first rounders for proven starters is actually a higher success rate than drafting them yourself. So who's got this right?
That's really important to talk about, because the Niners have been the team that has kept their first round picks. But they have a very spotty record draft, and they have big whiffs. Javon Kinlaw, Mike McGlinchey. Some people disagree with it, but I mean, big whiffs and some hits. And I think now they have no first round picks for a while. That's like the Rams. Maybe they feel like, you know what? If you don't pick a Pro Bowl player in the first round, you get crushed by the media, by your fans. It's unrealistic. It's hard to do it. Let's just trade these picks for players who definitely are Pro Bowlers. You can do that.
It's a plug and play system that they have over there, and it works. What we are saying essentially is that, okay, you guys got Stafford, we got Trey Lance, and as long as Trey Lance works out, then it's kind of, it evens out. They gave up the same capital relatively that we did, and they got a Super Bowl winning quarterback, regardless of whether or not you want to say that he's elite or he's just a better Jimmy Garoppolo, whatever. I think the Niners will go for corner, and I really don't want to see them not figure out a way to get into the first round. I really think they need to trade up into the middle or back end of the first round to get the corner that they want. And I feel this.
Yeah, good luck getting a shutdown corner at pick 61.
Situation for them.
You know what I mean?
Sorry?
Good luck getting a shutdown corner at pick 61. You got to trade up.
Exactly, and that's the thing is that why sit in the early, middle, and late rounds, knowing
And
you
miss
won't
out.
get the guy you need, and then try to get value picks.
Right.
Right now, you have a great roster that I think should have beaten the Rams. Kudos to the Rams, but I think the Niners gave that one away with the play calling. So they have the roster, but they do need another guy over there at corner. And Mosley needs to be like the second best corner we have. Ambry Thomas needs to be fully a developmental project. We need someone to play now. So we need to give up quite a bit to get into the first round, but I think we need to do it.
I still think they need a number one cornerback. The way that D'Amico calls games on defense indicates that he doesn't think that much of his corners. Like, he plays them way far off, 7, 8, 9 yards off with two deep safeties.
I agree with him. I don't think much of his corners either. And I think he
could. Me too. And he was more aggressive with them earlier in the season, and they gave up lots of big plays and
which penalties. I think he should. I think that's good leadership, because it would be like us coming into a new team and being like, I think you all suck, so I'm going to call my defense that way. You got to let them prove themselves.
Right. So we agree with how he perceives his cornerbacks, but I don't think they want to have that kind of a defense. I mean, it burned them at the end. They couldn't come close to matching up with Cooper Kupp. So what I think they need is a number one corner who could play outside the base defense, and then a nickel go to the slot the way Carlos Rogers did. And that way, Ambry Thomas can be your number three corner. He plays outside the nickel, but he isn't a starter. And Emmanuel Mosley is a number two. Now, you could either get that guy in the draft,
or a veteran, though,
or you could get Stephon Gilmore.
So here's what I think.
Yeah.
I love draft. I love drafting players. I think it's fun. It's cool to analyze them. It's awesome to see how they work out. I feel like I get closer to their school they came from as I look into them. However, I feel like the time for good feelings in this franchise are over. I don't think that we can draft a guy that should work out. We have to trade for a guy that will. And the thing is, I feel we have put ourselves behind the 8 ball when it comes to not developing our secondary properly and drafting the correct players. So the time to draft a first-round corner, I think, was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, agreed.
We didn't. So now we are kind of like in the Rams position where they had to go out and get Ramsey. And they gave up. I mean, they sold the farm for him. They gave up a lot for that guy. But I saw him all over the Super Bowl. I saw him all over the playoffs. We all know who he is. He's arguably the best at his position. He's the lockdown man. That being said, I think that Stephon Gilmore, even if he's not Ramsey, damn, he would be a really solid player in this secondary, and he would at least erase a problem. I think the upside to get to him in a new system is very high. And I think that he could go right back to his Pro Bowl years.
Absolutely. If they could get a corner in the draft, that'd be better, because you'd have him for longer. He'd be cheaper. He's younger, but Gilmore is the best.
If it doesn't work out, dare I say, it could cost a Super Bowl.
And again, like, I don't think the Niners want to put themselves out there. You traded up for Brandon Ayuk that almost crashed and burned when you felt Trent Sherfield was better than him for 2 weeks. Like, maybe they just feel like the Rams now. You know what? We'll focus our drafting on days 2 and 3.
I don't think you have to do. I mean, the Rams have drafted some decent people in the second round. They really have. I don't think the 49ers need to stick to just drafting and trading up. I think they can trade assets away in a way like they did for Trey Lance, but that was still to trade up. I feel that they should mix. They should solve this with a 100% guarantee corner that will work out.
Yeah, agreed.
So they're going to have to give up quite a bit of capital to get Gilmore, though. What do you think they give up for him? Because they have no.
Yeah, the thing with Gilmore is you don't really want him if you could get him for like a 1 or a 2 year deal. If he's a guy, and I don't think he's gonna. Maybe he gets a 3 year deal somewhere. I wouldn't give it to him. But if you can get him on a 1 year, 2 year deal, do that. Make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Brandon Park says, "Hear me out. Trade Debo to the Jags for their first and third draft. Thibodeau. Now we have 2 elite edges, and they could sign a wide receiver or draft one. Can Debo's body take the beating 4 more years? RIP your mom. Thank you." Wow. I don't think it makes sense. I don't think it's a good idea to trade weapons when you're trying to set up your your Trey Lance for success. He's got to replace Jimmy Garoppolo, who has a big cult following and has gone to 2 NFC championship games, and you're going to say, like, do better than him, but you don't get Debo. That's kind of rough. I feel better.
Yeah. Obviously, he's a duck. He's a really disruptive player. We will never get him. He will go really high in the first round, but yeah, Debo's the only reason that we were in some of those games. He took off in the Cowboys game. He took off in the Green Bay game. He put the team on his back. And the way that Kittle did in that Saints game against Breeze, there's no way we can get rid of Debo. But I understand that you're talking about trying to reset the front line, but I don't think our front line is a big issue.
I just feel like I would be more in favor of trading someone like Bosa, because you trade Bosa doesn't have this huge impact on everyone else. Like on defense, I mean, he makes a few other players' jobs easier, but essentially he does his thing and he does it well. Debo makes the quarterback's job easier. That you can't put that makes him more valuable, in my opinion. That makes him
I
more
also
valuable.
think it sends the wrong message to Trey Lance.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, you're coming into one of the best looking offenses in the league. Oh, but I just don't think that's a good idea there.
Ryan Jennifer Wood said, thoughts and prayers for you and your family. Thank you. What do you think about Christian Watson? Love y'all show. Christian Watson, huh? Just happens to be our next topic. Should the 49ers draft Christian Watson?
Serendipitous. All right, so is he? Let me see if I can recall. 6'4" to 11.
Yes.
Okay. So NDSU, is that what they call it?
Yes.
So he just same as our quarterback. They had a connection. I think they passed for over 700 yards, 6 touchdowns in their last hookup together.
Yes. 6'5", 208 according to CBS.
Yes. What draft is it? I could not find what round that he's projected to go.
CBS has him as pick number 116, but like those rankings aren't real hard and fast until the combine comes out. Everyone's kind of guessing until they have 40-yard dash times.
Right, and he's a big-bodied, fast-twitch receiver. He has great body control, decent hands. He seems to be a decent route runner. He's very explosive. He's quick. He's got it all. He was a 2-star recruit coming into North Dakota, which is surprising. But they really developed him well there, and I feel that NDSU is really putting themselves on the map. So I feel like this guy, there's a familiarity, and I think that everybody's going to draw the parallel of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, as far as like basically the college sweethearts being reunited and getting massive production from them. The only thing is he's lined up as H-back, running back, X, multiple wide receiver positions, things like that. He takes jet sweeps, he takes play actions and things like that. He's like, I feel like we have that already in Deebo Samuel. I feel like if we're going to keep him, that we don't want to draft another gadget player.
Well, hold on. I mean, yeah, if you could get another Debo, that's great. But look, pick 116, that's where they rank him. That means the Niners would have to take him with their 3rd-round comp pick. Should the Niners spend a 3rd-round pick on a wide receiver? I mean, you have Debo, Ayuk, Jennings. You're looking for like a number 4 guy. I don't think they need to spend their 3rd-round pick on a wide receiver. So Watson's great.
Ayuk and Jennings, you've got speed and really tough yak from the both of them. They're really hard to tackle. The whole, I have to say, all of the wide receiver rooms I've ever seen in San Francisco, this is the most gritty. This is the toughest. This is the hardest to tackle. Jennings and Ayuk and Deebo Samuel are beasts at the points of contact. I really think we're set, and I think that it's the 3rd-round comp pick. I think becomes important if we bundle it with a 2nd-rounder to trade up or to trade away to get someone like Stephon Gilmore.
The 49ers have a 6th-round pick. It's pick number 186. That would be a good pick to use on a wide receiver.
He slips to that, yes.
And I think you're looking for someone in the 6th round who is different than your top 3 guys. I mean, Jawan Jennings is big. Brandon Ayuk is sleek and really good at running routes down the field. And Deebo Samuel is the best after the catch in the game. What I think you could use is someone with some real speed. Someone like, someone who they, like Travis Benjamin or Trent Sherfield, but better. And I think you can get that guy in the 6th round. That's what you're looking for.
You're looking for that one home run every 2 or 3 games.
Because Lance is going to throw it. And whenever they tried to call it this year, it was for Benjamin, which was a waste. But someone with that kind of speed. Kyle's had success drafting quarterbacks.
He has a vertical thrower. Absolutely. Yeah. I have to say, it's really cool. I would love to have Watson, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I think it would be a mistake to draft a wide receiver that high.
That's the issue. Yeah. And I don't think they want to do that.
They need DBs more than they need wide receivers at this point.
Absolutely. They have no defensive backs right now.
Andrew says corner guard. We can get quality at both positions. It's over. We get quality at both positions. It's over. Trey will underperform first half of the season, explode second half when Kyle and Trey link mentally.
I think those are very safe predictions.
I don't know. I mean, the fact that
I
Trey
don't think
Lance
he'll come out sluggish. However, I'll say that.
had a year to learn. He had a year to get his feet wet. They're going to have the entire offseason to prepare. I'm expecting a good start.
You are. I'm expecting a couple of games where it's difficult for them to get on the same pace, but I think they pull out wins simply because Trey Lance gets going in the second half more. But I think his second half fire starts to slowly work its way into the first half, somewhere around the early quarter of the season.
That Niner guy says Trent McDuffie is that guy if they trade up into the first. Burner that can play in the slot. If they can't, Marcus Jones from Houston, early day 3. Thank you, that Niner guy. Everyone check out Trent McDuffie because I don't know the dude's name, but that's the profile of a player I'm looking at. Hold on real quick. Trent McDuffie, ranked 32 from Washington, 5'11", 195. All right, someone to look for. Burner, who can play. That's good. Seems like two good things. Damian Jasso says maybe one of the reasons Jed went to practice when the Niners were 3-5. It was his dad, by the way, was to tell Kyle to keep Jimmy as a starter. Even Kyle was ready to put in Trey, and even he even said it in one of his conferences. What do you think? Possible. What do you think?
Run that question by me one more time, please.
He's saying that the reason the York started showing up to practice midseason was to tell him to not switch to Trey Lance and to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. What do you think?
Oh, that's when we were talking about when basically Daddy showed up, right? I remember that. There's no doubt that it was for PR. It was for management. It was to flex his muscles, so to speak. It was to right his ship. What he said, I'm not entirely sure, but it might have been to end the quarterback controversy, because if you notice the Trey Lance packages and everything like that, at a certain point in the season, they stopped using them. And it was almost to like erase the anticipation of Trey Lance. Did you notice that?
Yeah, the conspiracy theory I had is that the Niners decided they were going to make one more trade run for Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, and that their number one trade pick was Trey Lance, and that they didn't want to mess up their future. But I don't believe that. But that was my conspiracy theory at the time. Calvin Austin the third, Memphis, is that guy. Who? Which guy? Oh, in the slot. Okay. Calvin Austin the third, Memphis. All right. Check it out.
Vertical threat, I assume he's talking about.
Would it be possible to trade Trey Sermon?
Not really. Not for anything, because we didn't show he can do anything. I think there's a lot of question marks about him because of how we used him. So no, if we want to trade him, he needs to be a really good backup this year in a role like Kendall Hunter or something like that, so that we can then trade him if we want. But at that point, I think we keep him and move on from people like Ryan Mostert.
This guy says
bring
in John Ross.
Former Bengal? Is that?
Yeah.
That's been a while.
He was college teammates with Dante Pettis, and really, frankly, isn't that much better than Pettis. I would say no. I like John Ross coming out, though, but he's done nothing. I don't know. You give him a shot, bring him into camp, maybe. Okay, bring him into camp. Give him a chance.
Let's see if he can beat out Travis Benjamin.
Okay. We've talked about this. I mean, I've talked about this a bunch, but I haven't talked to you about it. The Joe Montana, Trey Lance thing, him talking about what the locker room wants and all that's wild. What do you think?
All right, so I read his actual transcript and everything, and when I first just heard what people were saying, it seemed like Joe Montana was being salty and just being disruptive to the franchise. I think there's a little disruption in what he said. I think there's a little psychological projection in what he said.
I think so too.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Out of curiosity, did your wife comment on that?
Yes, and it's obvious.
No doubt he sees Steve Young in Jim,
no question.
Himself and Jimmy.
How good? Yeah, there's no question. Yeah.
Right. And I get that. However, dude, you got some championships of your own. Yeah. You are ever the number one 49er besides Jerry Rice. You know, you are, I mean, even Tom Brady still thinks you're one of the best. So I think he should be really satisfied with that. He has a very strange involvement with our franchise. It seems a bit anti-ownership, which, again, makes sense.
Hold on, again. He was an Eddie DeBartolo guy. They were super duper freaking close.
That he the regime. Yes, absolutely. He's loyal to his regime.
I don't know that the Yorks and Montana I have no idea, but I know that Montana and DeBartolos did. So yeah, for sure.
Montana seems like he's the guy who shows up to the stadium without a ticket, and you can't stop him because he's Joe Montana. And he kind of walks onto the field and says hello to the fans, and you can't stop him because he's Joe Montana. it seems like he has that attitude towards the ownership. And again, I do understand it, but I
and
feel
he's not wearing Niners clothes when he comes to the game. He's like, I'm here. You guys traded me. I don't know.
I know. It's heartbreaking because I feel like as fans, we all love him as our greatest captain, but he's not really acting like
he's got dual loyalties.
Right. I dare say he
played that up before the Niners played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
See himself that way? I don't know. It's in his head, but there's no doubt that what he said is a little bit sabotaging to Trey Lance, and it's only on one point. I don't care, and neither does Trey Lance, whether he sees the Steve Young situation all over again, if it's deja vu. But what I do care about is when he kind of very softly, indirectly quotes the locker room opinion on Trey Lance.
That took it to a whole different level, Sybilla. It's not just an opinion now.
It did. And he says that he hears them talking, and he implies, I strolled through the locker room and I had a chat with the boys, and they basically all told me that they are Jimmy Garoppolo guys. And it's kind of what he seems to be implying. Now, it's kind of like he dropped a small bomb. It's just he just threw a dart, basically, and just sat back, and he, wants to see if the fire is lit type of thing. I don't think he means it as insidiously as some of the articles I read kind of took that and magnified it. I think there may even be some validity to what he said. I have no doubt. I know if I was a 49er and I'm all about Trey Lance, I think everyone knows that, but I'm not all about Trey Lance at the expense of Jimmy Garoppolo. I feel that's the mentality of a lot of professionals. These guys are young, but they are professionals. And I feel like most of the 49ers on the surface, maybe even to Joe Montana, because Joe Montana is not part of this locker room. He may think he is, but he's not. He's a media guy as far as they're concerned. He's a legend. They want to shoot the breeze with him and talk about Dwight Clark catches all day long. But I think when it comes down to it, they gave him the token answers. I mean, hey, we're behind Jimmy. Jimmy's our guy.
And he tried to run with it like he got some crazy scoop, right?
Right. Well, I think Joe Montana, Jimmy. There's two things here. Joe knows, or Joe is just a little bit gullible with the answer that he got, and and like you said, he's like, I got the scoop, basically. And he doesn't realize, no, dude,
you got like the boilerplate answer.
Was he not a football player and a captain? Does he not know about team play? Of course he does. Yeah. And that's why I think, to be honest with you, this is all about projection. And I think he got an answer that fits his bill. And I think he reported on it. And it's not the biggest deal, but I think I'm just going to quote my father on this. I'm disappointed in Joe. Joe needs to shut up.
Fair.
My father has been a fan since before Joe Montana was here. So he's the real 49ers fan as far as going back in time.
It's one thing for me to try to cause chaos in the 49ers. I'm not Joe Montana. He shouldn't do that.
As a Navy veteran, obviously, there's no veteran that is at peace with all national policies. No way. It never happens. We always have an opinion. We always disagree. We always think our president's an idiot. However, I never, ever, ever say anything bad about the Marines and Navy. Of course, I have some negative experiences, but I have 99 happy ones for every negative one I had, if not more. It is definitely my duty to continue to speak in a positive light of the franchise, the U.S. Navy, the U.S. Marine Corps, that gave me my opportunity. And I did not get Super Bowl championships for that. I did not get millions of dollars for that. I just got pride for that. And to the day, I would never say something like that. So I'm a bit that's where I'm disappointed. And I wish he was like the face of our fan base. I wish he just kind of like
Young is though, isn't he?
That does not help matters. And I think that's why Joe Montana goes on the field and kind of walks around like he's parading for mayor or something like that.
And disagrees with Steve.
Which, by the way, Lisa is a great mayor.
Okay.
A shout out to her.
Jamal. Oh yeah. Down in Santa Clara?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, shout out Lisa. She's great. And
I love Lisa. Lisa's getting me a jersey from our national champion women's soccer team in Santa Clara.
Nice.
Can't wait to wear it.
Jamal says Watson and Jennings only similar in size. You mentioned T. Benjamin. Watson is T. Benjamin at 6'4", legit long speed. Don't sleep on his big playability. Okay. I know nothing about dude. I didn't say he wasn't fast. That's great.
Work about the draft. Yeah, capital.
I guess my only point is like third round wide receiver. Guess. Depends on what they do in free agency, apparently. I mean,
Here's the thing. I would love to have Watson for the connection and for his abilities, but we have really whiffed at. Someone said it earlier, guard, but also at corner, as far as like drafting guys that can play, and even at tackle. I mean, are we really comfortable at right tackle?
It seems to me if you draft a wide receiver in round 3, you're preparing to not give a contract extension to Brandon Ayuk. And you traded up for Brandon Ayuk. I mean, I don't think it seems like overkill. It seems like a little bit of overkill.
And the thing is, Ayuk knows the playbook. Let's keep him.
Debo, you'd be prepared to trade. If you want to get rid of one of your top 3 guys, then yeah, bring in this dude because he seems like he'd probably be a top 3 guy in the NFL. Otherwise,
I think he'll be value pick. I think he's a future NFL starter from what I've seen. But he was
starting safety, starting nickel.
Those aren't NFL corners, so we have to see where he ends up. But again, we just don't have the flexibility, the draft capital flexibility to go out there and get this guy.
I'd rather take an offensive tackle if there's a good one.
One first offense. The defense has one glaring need. Let's get it.
Andrew is a new member. Thank you very much. Two more. Should SF go after Dante Fowler? Had 11.5 sacks with LA back in 2019. If he's cheap, he'll be great on the Niners. The Niners don't have to spend for defensive or pass rushers. They get them for cheap.
I feel like they bring in Fowler if they lose someone like maybe Arden Key or something like that. I feel like Fowler would come in to back up Ebukam, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that where you put him?
Well, he's probably a better pass rusher than Ebukam, but yeah. I don't think they really need him.
Rid of Ebukam for him?
You'd probably replace you'd probably get rid of Ebukam and bring in Fowler, but Ebukam's a really good run defender, and Fowler can't play 4-3 defensive end. No. Maruna says many teams want to trade their first-round pick for Jimmy. 49ers legal team is looking for a possibility of trading Jimmy to multiple teams at once. Feels great. Hilarious. Yeah, so many teams are really just dying to get Jimmy for their first-round pick. Last topic, and this isn't really about the Niners, but it's still funny.
It is funny. It's funny. This is drama, so everyone get ready. It's gossip time. Let's go.
Former 49ers cornerback Richard Sherman took to Twitter to say that hell no, Matthew Stafford not a Hall of Famer, that he just has good numbers because any quarterback who's been in the NFL 10 years in this era inevitably ends up with good numbers, doesn't have the accolades. What do you think of former 49ers cornerback Richard Sherman saying that?
I'm surprised he got involved, but then it is Richard Sherman. As much as I love him, he loves to talk, and that's part of his game. Matthew Stafford's not claiming to be a Hall of Famer. I don't think he is yet. I think he could be. I think he wins another Super Bowl. You certainly have to talk about it. Yeah, he got to the Super Bowl and won because of his defense and the team around him, in the same way Jimmy Garoppolo did that back when we faced Patrick Mahomes. We almost did it again. Sometimes you win in spite of your quarterbacks, but Stafford is better than Garoppolo. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer right now, but if he continues to improve and he does what he did this year, 1 or 2 more times in his career, he's got McVay as a coach. So Richard Sherman's argument was basically like, all you got to do is make like 1 Pro Bowl, not even get a Super Bowl MVP. He basically dropped everything that Stafford doesn't have. And then he started listing things that he has. He also sees the similarity of the Super Bowl ring being 1-to-1 and everything like that. So
feels personal. What's the deal?
Personal.
I don't know Stafford like that, but it seems like
he's the Detroit Lions quarterback.
He had to play for the freaking Lions.
Can I hate Stafford for winning a Super Bowl? No. This guy served his time in hell being the Lions quarterback. That's what that is. To play in that franchise as the quarterback is serving your time in hell. And he first season out of there, he wins a Super Bowl. I think that even though I think that Stafford has 2 modes, really good and sucking. It's like he can go from one to the next. And Sherman pointed that out. He's right when he's like, yeah, he makes a few decent throws. Okay, he makes better than decent throws. He makes a few diamonds out there. He throws some dimes. And then he does. He throws some boneheaded head-scratching plays. He was this close to being seen as a failure, except for Mr. Tart needs to go play some baseball and learn how to catch. But really, that's what Sherman's basing his arguments on, is that basically the whole Tart thing answers the fact that Stafford is no good. And you know what? Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp both got together on the fact that they're not happy with all of his pick sixes. But let's see what he does next year. We cannot write him off as a Hall of Fame contender.
Here's why Richard Sherman is unreliable on this topic. So he says that Matthew Stafford makes a few good throws, but essentially makes bad decisions. Well, okay, that's kind of correct, but it's kind of underselling it. And on the other hand, Richard Sherman is a huge Jimmy Garoppolo fan. So it seems to me that Richard Sherman probably thinks that Jimmy Garoppolo, and the way he described Stafford is the way I would describe Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yes,
He makes a
there's
few
no
nice
doubt.
throws, but
There's
he's a
no
net
doubt.
negative. Stafford does more than make a few nice throws. He can make as nice a throws as essentially any quarterback in the league. His arm is as good as any quarterbacks in the league.
Absolutely. Well, that's the one thing that I consider Stafford to be elite in. That is my favorite attribute that he has, is his ability to allow Cooper Kupp and OBJ to get open, and that's what they do.
And we don't know what kind of accolades he would have had if he were drafted by, say, Seattle instead of Detroit. So I think it's kind of unfair to be that simple and reductionist about it. And we'll see. I mean, his career isn't over. He played 1 year out of Detroit, won a Super Bowl. He may put together the accolades to get himself to the Hall of Fame in the future. I agree with Sherman in the sense that if he retired today, I don't think he'd be a Hall of Famer. But
to get into the Hall of Fame yet, but he's absolutely
he could
in his portfolio.
If he wins one more Super Bowl, he will. I'll tell you that.
Yes.
Tell you that.
And the thing is, he had Megatron, and so a lot of people. I've actually heard the argument that he's not that good. He had Megatron. Well, I would argue that Megatron and Stafford only had each other.
Jimmy Ward said that on my channel this offseason. He's like, you had Calvin Johnson. Like, what was the problem in Detroit? Well, I think Stafford answered the question. There were big problems. There was no defense. There was no run game ever.
It is interesting that Ward kind of set himself up for failure, but he delivered because he preyed on Stafford all year. He had 3 picks from him.
He did. So it wasn't Ward's fault, definitely. Dakota Mule says, why not looking for a young center? Yeah, that too. That too. If they can get a young center.
That too. That's the problem.
Is Brandon Cooks available for the cheap? Not for the cheap. He's a really good player. He's a starter. I don't think the Niners could get him for the cheap, unless I'm wrong. Yo, I have that same Spider-Man poster.
That is a classic.
Yes, classic. That's right. Jimmy to Browns. Good D, 37 million salary cap, 1 quarterback away. Then why would they get Jimmy home?
Ouch.
1 quarterback away, huh? Just like kind of like the Niners who are moving on from Jimmy. I'm just saying.
You've been waiting all season to say this. You've been biting your tongue on Jimmy Garoppolo all year. I can tell. This is like, yes, I can let it go. I can let it go. You're like a kid on this. Like, it's just like you finally have been set free, basically.
Yeah, I had to like sit there really quietly during the playoffs, been like, can't be happening. But it all worked out the way it was supposed to.
My household was like this during the playoffs. That's Jimmy Garoppolo. Every mistake he made, that's Jimmy. That the whole everyone. I had my friends who don't even watch football, and they were asking me questions like, "Why did he do that?" And my response was, "Well, that's Jimmy Garoppolo." And you know what? I hate to say it, but when you're watching the game, okay, your emotions are there. And I remember saying every single time, "That's Jimmy. He's not that good." Like just every single time, I'm thinking, my friends don't know anything about football. They can see it for themselves. Like, oh. Was terrible, but nothing against Jimmy, but yeah, I can tell.
OG says it's all Cup. He saved them 3 straight games, not even talking this season. Well, maybe if Kyle Shanahan had called one play for Deebo Samuel with 13 minutes left in the final 13 minutes of the NFC Championship game, it could have been all Deebo. Anyway.
What I hope for Kyle Shanahan is that his career is not a question mark of if you had run that play. I really hope he just grows because it really comes down to that. Can he grow and learn from these? And if he can. Hey, there are a lot of teams that don't get to the Super Bowl and certainly don't get to the championship game two out of 3 years. But it needs to trend upwards. It absolutely does. He needs to learn.
That's right. That's our show for today. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Sybilla for coming on. This was really nice.
It was good to see you again as well.
Good to see you too. I'm going to be back on tonight in 4 hours with Jesse, 49ers After Dark.
So that'll be a good show. Tune in.
Thank you. Adios.